What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel where we speak the truth, we're honest, we give our takes on pro wrestling. It is Monday morning here in the East Coast, July 1st, 2024. Of course, this is your AEW New Japan Forbidden Door review. The show just got over, and I will say, wholeheartedly, the beginning of the show, outside of Danielson and Shingo and Zack Sabre Jr. and Orange Cassidy, there was a good angle after the Tony Storm and Mina match, but the first half of the show with the first 6 matches, it just felt flat. And something was missing throughout the night. There was no buzz with the show in the first 2 hours of this show. There was no buzz at all. And then we get to 10 o'clock. We get to the TNT Championship ladder match. And things started to pick up. The 6 competitors in that ladder match, Takeshita, who the crowd was going crazy for when he had a chance to win the TNT Championship. I'll talk about that later. Mark Briscoe, the Scapegoat, Jack Perry, Dante Martin, Leo Rush, El Phantasmo. They delivered an awesome wrestling match. And up until the main event, they had the best match of the night. And I was thinking to myself, why? It's been a long time since there's been a ladder match on pay-per-view, and it was not considered a match of the night candidate. Now, obviously with the main event, if it wasn't for the main event, this was the match of the night. But obviously that's going to Osprey and Swerve. That match was insane. This match was awesome too. And this match, I feel like, was so awesome was because the dynamic between these guys was awesome. Everybody had chemistry with each other. And it was brutal. It was chaotic. And the most important thing is there was carnage. Because the first half of the show was flat. And there needed to be buzz. And this created buzz. The crowd was alive for this match. The crowd loved the ladder match. There was some really some good high spots in that match. And that's where things picked up throughout the show. The women's match between Stephanie Vaquer and Mercedes Moné, that was really damn good. The crowd turned on Mercedes halfway through the match. Stephanie Vaquer, in her first big match in America, had the crowd chanting for her name in the UBS Arena. She was really over tonight. I'll tell you what, this was my first Stephanie Vaquer match that I've ever seen, and she's awesome. She was awesome tonight against Mercedes Moné, and whenever her deal is done with CMLL, she wants to come to America, and she wants to stay with AEW. Man, Tony Khan should sign that woman to a contract. She was awesome. I would love to see her make more appearances this year. I don't know if she will, but, she was one of the highlights from the international superstars, wrestlers that came through the Forbidden Door this year. She was one of the bigger names. And I had never seen a match of her before, but to see her tonight against somebody like Mercedes, she was awesome. Dare I say, she was probably better than Mercedes in that match. So that match was really damn good. Then we got the return of Britt Baker after the match, teasing Britt versus Mercedes for a potential match at All In. Sign me up. I'm going to sink my teeth into that because that's going to be an amazing feud. Then the main event. insane. Just insane. You knew it was going to be good. But I'm going to be honest with you. They overexceeded expectations. They over-delivered expectations. The match was insane. The match was incredible, may I say. Now, I will compare it to the match with Bryan Danielson. Obviously, I'm talking Osprey's match. Obviously, when it comes to the in-ring wrestling, that match blew this match out of the water. I'm not going to say blow it out of the water, but certainly Will's match with Danielson at Dynasty, from an in-ring perspective, was better than this. But if you're talking about story and dramatic and, just the fact that there was high stakes in this match, like you felt it, like these guys were fighting with sweat and tears in this match for the biggest prize in AEW, then yes, this had more stakes and had more importance than the match with Danielson. Just texting my dad to give him the result of this match, the main event. Okay, there we go. So yeah, the show was flat, the first part of the show. Then with those three matches, including the Danielson match, including the Zack Sabre Orange Cassidy match, right now, I give it a thumbs up. I give it a thumbs up show for Forbidden Door. Again, I'm not going to say it was one of the better shows in AEW that they've done this year. That goes to Revolution. Revolution was probably one of the better wrestling shows I've ever seen, to be perfectly honest with you. But, it was a really good show. And that's what I'll say about Forbidden Door before we get into the matches, all the matches that took place tonight. And I will say another thing before we talk about these matches. I mean, my God, man. The amount of complaining that I've seen from people on social media about the AEW pay-per-view format. And oh my God, 14 matches. It's too much. It's too much wrestling. I can't take 14 matches. Oh my gosh. Well, let me tell you this. Yes, I complained about it as well, like this time 2 years ago. It was too much. But guess what? AEW has shown you time and time again when they do these pay-per-views like this that these shows are absolutely they're absolute bangers, and they're unforgettable. They're unforgettable matches. So, for those of you that are complaining about the pay-per-view format, though, and oh my God, it's too much wrestling. I'm just bored. I'm bored of the concept. I'm bored of the same characters. No one's asking you to watch. No one's asking you to watch the show. It's your decision whether you want to watch the show tonight. And if you decided not to watch the show, then you missed out on a really good pay-per-view. Okay? You missed out on a really good pay-per-view and some great stuff. There was great matches on this show. There was match of the year contenders on this show with the main event. I bet that the people that are complaining about 10 matches on a 4-hour pay-per-view are the same ones who are okay with a 5-match PLE in a span of 3 hours with 15 minutes in between, with ads on Peacock and fucking video packages for 5 minutes that we don't need because we already know what the feuds happen. We already know the feuds in WWE. I'm sure you're okay with that, though. But Just had to get that off my chest, man. I get that you're upset, but Tony Khan and AEW is not going to change it. You know why? Because the pay-per-view format that they run now, it's fucking working, okay? And it's just to the point where if you don't like it, shit, man, you don't have to watch. You don't have to watch. All right, the main card. Oh God, it's 12:30. The main show. Hechicero versus MJF was the opener of the show. This was the right opener. Get the crowd hyped. Send MJF out there first in his hometown, Long Island, New York. Very on and off crowd tonight. They had their good points. They also had their bad points where they really weren't invested in matches, but they had their ups and they had their downs. This match was fine. This was a fine match. I said it from the beginning. There was no heat going into this match at all. There was really no build going into this match between MJF and Hechicero. The only reason this match happened was to get MJF on the show in his hometown, and it was the right move. Why would you not want one of your biggest wrestlers and the guy from Long Island? Why would you not want him on the show? So, even though no one's going to talk about it, people probably forgot about it already. It was right for it to be on the show. So they had a fine match. Hechicero got some offense in. MJF did his usual Ric Flair, the Jeff Jarrett Ric Flair shtick, the eye pokes. Wrestled a good match. Hechicero wrestled a good match too. MJF won with the brain buster, and we were done. It was fine for what it was. No heat. Probably a match that should have been on Dynamite. It's a shame because the way they were building to his match with Roosh, I really did enjoy the feud that those guys had for 3 weeks. But it's a shame that Roosh couldn't be on the pay-per-view here tonight because that match that we got on Dynamite was a pay-per-view worthy match. This match that we got here on Forbidden Door was a Dynamite worthy match or a Collision worthy match. I'm not saying the match was bad, but this match had no heat at all going into the pay-per-view. MJF gets the win, obviously, over Hechicero, and hopefully we're building into a bigger storyline for MJF going into All In. I think he's going to be involved in something big. And I think it's going to be a match with Will Osprey. They've teased it for the last 2 weeks now. Osprey upstaged MJF on Dynamite this past Wednesday, and they bumped into each other a couple weeks ago. You also got a 1-2. The Elite made this match. The Elite rewarded MJF with a match against Hechicero. So we got Blood and Guts coming up. The Elite is going to be in Blood and Guts. Is MJF going to be a part of Team AEW in Blood and Guts? I could see that as a high possibility. I would not mind seeing that at all. So, overall, fine stuff. Let's move MJF on to something bigger because the guy is too damn good for it. The Elite, the Young Bucks, and Kazuchika Okada versus the Acclaimed and Tanahashi. Again, you had to get the Elite on the show somehow. Had to get Tanahashi on the show somehow. So let's put them in this match. The match, again, had no heat. It was serviceable for what it was. It moved along the storyline between the Young Bucks and the Acclaimed, a feud, leading them to a match for the Tag Team Championships, I would guess in the next couple weeks coming up here. But the match was fun. It was fine. And, I've seen better multi-man matches in AEW. Shit, I've seen better multi-man matches that happened on 0 Hour. The match between the Lucha Bros and Mystico versus LIJ. That was great. That was a great match. This was fun. This was fun for what it was. Okada, MVP, man. I didn't expect Okada to have as good of character work as he's had in AEW, because we know how good of a wrestler he is. He's one of the best in the world. When he's serious, he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And what we didn't really have with Okada in like the beginning and like New Japan, much of character. Since he's came to AEW, he's been a heel. He's paired up with the Elite. He's got his new catchphrase of "Shut up, bitch." The crowd loves him. They treat him like a top babyface in the company. The guy is not a heel. He's a babyface in a heel faction. That's just reality. That's the reality of the situation. It was cool seeing him and Tanahashi face to face, but besides that, the match was serviceable for what it was. Okada pins Tanahashi to win the 6-man tag for the Elite. So, this is where the pay-per-view really started. First round matchup of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Shingo Takagi versus Bryan Danielson. Dragon versus Dragon. Crowd absolutely loved this match. Shingo played the role of heel. Bryan was the babyface, of course. These guys had a great match. They had a great wrestling match. Bryan won, of course. But the beginning, they were doing a lot of grappling. Bryan and Shingo doing some mat wrestling, grappling, all that good stuff. First real nasty spot of the match. Bryan was on the apron. Shingo was on the outside. Shingo hits like a twisted DDT onto Bryan on the outside, and Bryan landed straight on his head. And man, we can't help it anymore. Bryan does it every match, and then the doctor comes over. The dude is a master at selling. He's a master at it, dude. It's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's a legend, and he's a master at selling. So now Danielson has a head issue, so Takagi is working the head. Then Danielson gets back in the match, some yes kicks to Shingo, and then Shingo was getting some high momentum in here. He even hit Live in Japan. I think that's his finisher, Live in Japan. And Bryan kicked out at 2. And Bryan was able to reverse it to... he was able to escape a move from Shingo. Hit the Psycho knee. Shingo kicked out. So Bryan was getting frustrated. He's like, I'm going to kick his fucking head in. And he kicked Shingo's head in. Went for another Psycho knee. Shingo reversed it. And then Bryan reversed the Made in Japan. He got out of it. Ran to the turnbuckle. Hit the Psycho knee. 1, 2, 3. Bryan Danielson beats Shingo Takagi tonight to advance to the semifinals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, where there is no rest for him because Wednesday night he's wrestling Pac. And that might end up being a better match than what we got tonight. What we got tonight with Bryan and Shingo was great. Great wrestling. The crowd loved it. I think we see a better match on Wednesday, and with Pac and Danielson. Not saying Shingo's not good. I just said the match was great. But, man, I don't think Pac and Danielson have ever gone one-on-one before. So, That's going to be fun. Honestly, the show on Wednesday is pretty stacked. It's a big show. We'll talk about it later on in the show. So, the AEW Women's Championship match. Mina Shirakawa against Toni Storm. And I was really looking forward to this. This was, I think, one of the better builds going into the pay-per-view tonight. One of the better builds was Mina and Toni Storm. And you know that feeling for WWE when you're seeing it build to the pay-per-view and the story and the build could be better than the match. That's the exact vibe I got with this match. Is the match was good, don't get me wrong, the match was solid, but I think the build with this match, the build was better than the match itself. They did some good stuff, Mina and Toni did, but I enjoyed the build, and the post-match angle was fantastic. I enjoyed all that much more than I did the match. The match was solid. Toni Storm retained, of course, with the Storm Zero. Mariah May, who was standing on the outside, she was in the corner of nobody. So, here we all thought that Mariah was going to cost somebody the match. More likely, she was going to cost Mina Shirakawa the match against Toni Storm. That did not happen. So instead, what happened was Mariah and Toni, they have a moment, okay? They're like talking to each other. Toni is giving Mariah some words of wisdom, and then Mina stands up. She offers a handshake to Toni Storm. Toni Storm accepts the handshake. The two of them hug. Mariah May is standing right in front of them with a huge smile on her face. They all lean into each other. A triple kiss on the lips. This New York crowd gave this a monster pop, and then they put the camera on Nigel McGuinness and his reaction to standing up, giving the three ladies a standing ovation, and he was in tears. Nigel was in tears over this. This was fantastic. This post-match angle with Mina, Mariah May, and Toni Storm. This was fantastic. The crowd loved it. The reaction from Nigel added a nice touch to it. They all walked to the ramp together. And now we shift our focus to the AEW Women's Owen Hart Cup Tournament. And to all the dumbasses and fools in the wrestling community who say AEW has no stories, they have plenty of stories. And at the top of the list is this story between Mariah May and Toni Storm. Because Mariah May advanced in the Owen Hart Cup Tournament on the pre-show. She beat Saraya. So now she's wrestling Hikaru Shida. Mariah May is going to win the Women's Owen Hart Cup Tournament. So what happens after that? More than likely, Toni Storm is going to turn on Mariah May. Because when Mariah wins, she gets a shot at the Women's Champion at All Out. and the women's champion, not All Out, All In, and the women's champion is going to be Toni Storm. So when Mariah wins, she's going to get her heart broken by Toni Storm. And boom, we're off to the races with Mariah May and Toni Storm at All In. And hopefully that's a great build going into the match because they've been together for 9 months. This is nearly, I'd say, 9 months in the making. This match between Mariah May and Toni Storm. Because it's going to happen. Mariah is winning the Owen Hart Cup tournament. It's just a matter of who's the babyface and who's the heel going into this match. But this is one of the bigger storylines going on right now in AEW. And I'm going to trust Tony. And I'm going to trust AEW on this one. To not only tell a great story, but to do it right. And, with this feud with Mina, Mariah May, and Toni, I'm hooked. I'm hooked on this storyline. I'm excited to see what happens. Obviously, Mariah May is going to win the Women's Owen Hart Cup tournament. I'm excited to see what happens from there. So, should be good, man. Should be good. Orange Cassidy against Zack Sabre Jr. This match, slow in the beginning, picked up and picked up and picked up. The last 5 minutes of this match was incredible. From all the counters, with Orange out wrestling Zack Sabre Jr., this match ruled. And I would say, with the top 3 matches of the night, it's close. It's either this or the Mercedes Stephanie Vakura match. I would probably give it to the ladies. I would give the top 3 to the ladies. But this match ruled. This was really good. This was a really good match. So, we'll go over move by move as much as we can here. As much as we can. So, ZSJ and Orange, they lock it up in the beginning. A lot of technical holds between Orange and Zack, which is the way you would have expected a match. Standoff, crowd gave standing ovation. Then Orange has Zack Sabre Jr.'s arms trapped. And then Zack has Orange's arms trapped, and they go back and forth. So it's a lot of back and forth early in this match. So Orange hits a suicide dive onto Zack Sabre Jr. He gives a corkscrew to Zack on the outside. Again, out-technicaling Zack Sabre Jr., I guess you could say. Working on Zack's knee on the outside. And then, you know how Orange does his top rope DDT? Zack Sabre Jr. sold this DDT. Like, if he sold this to perfection, he was gonna win the lottery. And my God, my guy sold like he flopped like a fish. He was flopping like a damn fish. That was a great DDT and a great job by selling, and a great job selling by Zack Sabre Jr. He kicked out at 2 after that DDT. Later in the match, Zack has control of Orange Cassidy, and then after Orange goes for the orange punch, and Zach working on the hand earlier. Orange grabs his hand as, his fingers are hurting him. So Zach sees this. He goes right after the fingers. He snaps his fingers once. He snaps it again. And then Orange able to get him in a breach break, but Zach falls. Then they do some counter roll-ups 3 times. And Zack Sabre Jr., he's able to kick out. And then the finish. My God, this was awesome. The finish of this match. Zack Sabre Jr. So, Orange, he goes for the mousetrap, right? He's going for the mousetrap. Zack counters this. He grabs his arm. He puts his leg over his arm. Then Orange, he's trying to get his leg to the rope. Zack grabs his arm. He grabs his leg. He puts his leg in a crisscross applesauce position. So he's got both his legs trapped. He's got his arm trapped because one shoulder's on the mat and the other shoulder is trapped because Zack has his leg over it. Zack twisted Orange Cassidy like a fucking pretzel. It was so unique. Zack Sabre Jr. is one of a kind. He's a really unique wrestler. And besides Bryan Danielson, there's no other wrestler as technical as Zack Sabre Jr. You can tell me, I don't know. You can tell me Hechicero. I've heard a lot how technical Hechicero is. You can tell me Chad Gable. You can tell me, I don't know. But it's very clear that the 2 best technical wrestlers in the world are Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. Zack is he's such a unique wrestler, and I don't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling a lot, but man, I would love to see him as their world champion. I think he deserves it. He deserves it. He's awesome. Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata versus the Learning Tree and Jeff Cobb. This was the piss break match of the night, and this was a skippable match. Only thing worthy that happened was the finish. Hook pinned Chris Jericho using his own move. So Hook was able to hit the Judas effect onto Jericho, and he pinned him using his own move. That felt good. Now we get into the good stuff. Ladder match for the TNT Championship. Mark Briscoe, Jack Perry, Konosuke Takeshita, Dante Martin, Leo Rush, and El Phantasmo. So, the first crazy spot of the night is there's a ladder bridge between El Phantasmo and I think I was thinking Dante Martin, but there's a ladder bridge between El Phantasmo and Leo Rush. Okay. I thought it was Dante Martin, it was Leo Rush. Phantasmo has Leo Rush on his shoulders, Rush's stomach in the air, and he twists Leo in the air, and Leo lands right on the ladder. So that was the first sick bump of the match. Then you got, after Leo got taken out, you got Dante on the shoulders of Phantasmo this time. Dante reverses it into a jumping knee to Phantasmo. Dante on the ladder going after the title. Takeshita comes in to interfere, pushes Dante off the ladder as Dante hits a crossbody onto El Phantasmo. Then Takeshita throws the ladder onto Dante Martin, wiping him clean. And then Takeshita, a brain buster onto to Dante Martin on the side of the ladder, which, I mean, Dante sold that like crazy, but I honestly think Takeshita took the worst of that. But that was pretty cool. And then Mark Briscoe goes to work. And Mark Briscoe, he's taking care of Takeshita. And there's a table set up on the outside. He puts Takeshita on the table, gets the chair in the ring, puts the ladder on top of Takeshita. He goes in the ring. He jumps off the chair onto Takeshita and the ladder, and he goes through the table. Mark Briscoe, absolute madman, probably his biggest spot of the whole match. That was pretty insane, though. That was nice. Then Jack Perry on top of the ladder, grabbing the TNT Championship until El Phantasmo comes up to do something about it. And Dante is able to leap over on Jack Perry. So it's Phantasmo and Dante on top of the ladder fighting off as Jack Perry pushes both guys off the ladder, and Dante grabbing his knee, screaming in pain. Got worried for a second because the last time Dante Martin was able to do a ladder match, he tore his ACL. And that was at Ring of Honor in a match last year. So I'm happy that, this was not an actual injury. Because if it was, that would have been a travesty. That seriously would have been a travesty if he had gotten hurt again. But luckily he didn't. So I think it was Jack Perry who places the ladder on the hardest part of the ring. And on one side, you have Takeshita and Lio Rush fighting on the outside. The other side, you have Jack Perry laying on the table. What I thought, and he was fighting Dante Martin. What I thought was going to happen was Briscoe was going to jump onto Takeshita and Leo, while Dante was going to be on the other side, jumping on the Jack Perry, putting him through the table. That's not what happened. He just let Takeshita and Lio Rush fight each other on the outside. So Briscoe is on the far part of the ladder, and this ladder is on like the front side of the ring, and Jack Perry is over here on a table. So Mark has to make this humongous jump from this side of the ring to the other side of the ring. And of course he didn't put him through the table. That ladder should have been much closer, and he should have just jumped onto Leo and Takeshita, and it would have been a fine spot. But Jack ended up not going through the table. But that was kind of a stupid spot. I didn't like it. But we then go to Takeshita. He gives a power bomb to Lio Rush on the ladder. That's after Phantasmo and Lio Rush. They are at the top going for the TNT Championship. Takeshita power bombs Lio Rush onto a ladder. That's the end of Lio Rush. That's he's done in this match. This was honestly the spot of the whole match. This was phenomenal. Phantasmo and Takeshita fighting on the apron, and right next to them, they got two tables on the outside. So something's going down. Phantasmo has Takeshita in a pile driver position. He's not able to lift him up. Takeshita gives Phantasmo a forearm, which you could hear echo throughout the whole arena. Then he gives him a knee strike to the face, which you could hear around the whole arena. Then he has him in position for a blue Thunderbomb. And he gives Phantasmo the blue Thunderbomb. This place, you could hear the tables explode. When he hit that blue Thunderbomb onto Phantasmo, those tables exploded. And then Takeshita, he got right back up and he was going after the TNT Championship. They had this crowd thinking that Takeshita was going to win the title. They were going crazy for him. Even though he's associated with Don Callis, they were going crazy for the fact that Takeshita was probably, he could be winning the TNT Championship here. And then he was stopped by Mark Briscoe. He hit a Death Valley driver onto Takeshita. Jack Perry grabbed a ladder, hit Mark Briscoe in the face with it. Jack Perry was all by himself. He grabbed the tallest ladder there was, and Jack Perry is your new TNT champion. And I get people are upset that Takeshita was not going to win, but you had to know going into this match that Takeshita was not going to win because Takeshita is going to wrestle in the G1 tournament, which starts in about 3 weeks. So why would you give him the TNT championship when he's going to be off television for like a month? So you're missing your TNT champion for a month spill going into All In. That would not be good for AEW. So giving the title for Jack Perry was the right move. He's in the biggest faction in AEW. Try to charge my phone there for a second. Give it some juice. He's in the biggest faction in AEW. He's really yet to have a singles championship run in AEW. The FCW championship is not recognized. So, this is his first real singles run as a champion. Jack Perry is the TNT champion. I think he deserves it. He is doing, this year, he's doing his best character work as a heel in the Elite. And it started in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And he's transitioned it over to AEW. And I'm excited to see what he does as the TNT champion, because the last 2 reigns with the TNT champion, you're talking Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. And Cope was on his way to having a great reign as the TNT champion until he unfortunately got hurt against Malachi Black. Christian Cage, one of the best TNT champions of all time in AEW. So Jack's got some high shoes to fill, and this is going to be a test for Jack Perry, and hopefully he's booked well by Tony Khan as the TNT champion. This is going to be a test for Jack Perry, and I hope he does well, because I'm a huge fan of him. He's our scapegoat at the end of the day, so congrats to Jack on winning the TNT championship. Stephanie Vaquer against Mercedes Moné. I really talked about this in the beginning. I'm not going to go over this move by move because the bigger story is what happened after the match. But hey, if she leaves CMLL and she's ready to come over to America full time, Tony Khan should sign Stephanie Vaquer full time because she was awesome. She had a better match than Mercedes did. She had the UBS Arena chanting her name. Mercedes was getting booed out of the building. Chants of fuck the Celtics and fuck the Red Sox because they're in the New York area. So, of course, you had to know that there was going to be Knicks fans and there was going to be some Yankee fans there too. So, I mean, of course, that she's from Boston. Those chants of fuck the Celtics and fuck the Red Sox, well justified. So, she beats Stephanie with the Monet Maker, and the crowd is booing the shit out of her during her victory. She wins the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. She retains the TBS Championship. But the bigger story came from after the match, and it was with the return of Dr. Britt Baker. She got a huge pop. The crowd absolutely loved it. This is one of your bigger matches going into Wembley Stadium. And the women's division is hot in AEW with really 3 potential big storylines going into All In. I would probably say this is the best the women's division has been ever in AEW. You're talking about Mariah May versus Toni Storm, Britt Baker versus Mercedes Moné, and Chris Statlander versus Willow Nightingale. I know they're wrestling on Wednesday night in the semifinals of the Owen Hart, but I think the feud between Stat and Willow is going until All In. I think it concludes at All In with Willow going over in that match. So, 3 women's matches on the All In card. That's huge. They deserve it. Their women's division stacked now compared to 2 years ago. So, it's got a lot of progress. Mercedes, obviously, she brings attention to it, and there's some exciting stuff. And now you add a potential Britt Baker Mercedes Moné match leading into All In. That's going to be awesome. That is going to be awesome. Unfortunately, what was not awesome was Jon Moxley and Tetsuya Naito for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. This was not awesome. This was a stinker, to be honest with you. Crowd didn't really seem to care about Naito. Crowd wanted to see the main event. Red Shoes was the most over person in this match. And honestly, I felt like Naito couldn't keep up with Moxley in this match. The best thing about him is his finisher. I love his finisher. I love the Destino. But this was not it. This match between Naito and Moxley, this was not it. And Naito was able to regain the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, which we all knew was going to happen. And I honestly don't have much to say about this match. This was a match that I really didn't care about going into the show because we've seen it so many times. And I think You know, one of the issues with New Japan is some of their high wrestlers that they've already established are in the back end of their career. Obviously, Tanahashi's in a president role, so he barely wrestles. He's not even wrestling in the G1 this year. Naito is absolutely in the back end of his career. That guy is held by Scotch tape. That's how he's held. Honestly, they have, and so is Ishii. Ishii is in the back end of his career as well. But New Japan, I mean, they're going to have to rely on guys like Zack Sabre Jr., which he's probably their best wrestler, and he deserves a run with the World Championship. Gabe Kidd is another one. El Phantasmo's good. But guys like Naito are on the back end of their career. And you could tell because he had a hard time keeping up with Moxley in this match. This crowd didn't care. I didn't care. This match was not that good. This match was an absolute stinker. But, hey, congrats to Naito. And before we got into the main event, we got a big announcement from New Japan Pro Wrestling. They are doing 2 nights at the Tokyo Dome like they always do. January 4th, night 1 is their Wrestle Kingdom event. And night 2 is their Wrestle Dynasty event from the Tokyo Dome. And that's going to involve New Japan, AEW, CMLL, and Stardom. So it's a New Japan show with the involvement of AEW, CMLL, and Stardom, which is cool. That's going to be really good. I'm excited to see the card that they put together for that show. Will I be watching? I don't know. That's like right before the playoffs in the NFL, so that's a tough call. Honestly, that's a tough call. I'm not sure, but that sounds awesome. Legit, that's awesome. But then we get into the main event. The reason we're here, the reason that people were going to buy Forbidden Door. Will Osprey versus Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship. This crowd was awake for this match. This crowd absolutely loved this match. First of all, for those of you that know, Jim Jones was a part of Swerve's entrance. Really cool. But they started off hot. Collar and elbow tie up, shoulder tackles. Swerve reversed Osprey's Hurricane Rana. Swerve then went for a Tijeras, which was reversed by Osprey. He was able to stand on his feet, and Osprey went for Swerve went for a last call. Osprey went for a heel kick, blocked by Swerve. 5 minutes into the match, crowd is standing on their feet. This is awesome. The crowd was totally into this match. Osprey hits a drive-by onto Swerve on the outside. And then they were fighting a lot on the outside. So there's a spot that Swerve and Osprey, they're on the outside barricade, and Osprey hits a Hurricane Rana onto Swerve on the outside floor. Then these guys are going crazy. Reverse ducking the last call. Swerve ducks Hidden Blade. Swerve hits an uppercut. Swerve, he gets powerbombed by Osprey. Osprey lifts him up for a Styles Clash. Swerve kicks out at 2. This crowd is going apeshit, man. This crowd is going absolute ape shit for these two guys. Absolutely unreal. They show Daniel Garcia watching this match. Garcia is wrestling Osprey Wednesday night on Dynamite. These two guys are on the top rope. Swerve has Osprey in a suplex position. He gets Osprey really high up in the air, and they both go crashing down. And then they're fighting on the outside. This might have honestly been the spot of the match. Osprey's on the outside. Swerve goes to the inside of the ring. Swerve goes to the top rope. Swerve stomp onto Will Osprey with Osprey on the announce table. Fucking sick, man. Sick. Incredible spot from between with Swerve. So now they're back in the ring. And after that, Osprey, he gains momentum. He hits a hidden blade. Then we think he's going to hit the Tiger Driver. He hits the Stormbreaker. And Swerve is the first ever person to kick out the Stormbreaker in AEW. It was Swerve. Crowd went nuts. Then Osprey goes for a top rope, top rope maneuver, and as he does that, Swerve meets him in the middle rope, and he gives him a Swerve stomp. Then he hits a last call. He kicks out. And he is pummeling Osprey at this point. He's got full control of the match. Don Callis came out. Don Callis came out in this match. The one complaint I will have was the ref bump. I didn't think there was any need for a ref bump in this match. Leave that shit to WWE, because a ref bump happens every single main event on a PLE. Leave the ref bump to WWE. In this case, there's no need for a ref bump. You could have just had the ref check on Swerve, Don Callis come out and give the screwdriver to Osprey. But this feud was about who was going to have the killer instinct, who was going to want it more between Swerve and Osprey. It got personal a little bit between them. But Swerve told Osprey, I told you this years back ago, Swerve said, that you'll be on top of the industry whenever you get that killer instinct. And tonight, Swerve was proven right. Callis gave Osprey the screwdriver, and Osprey refused to lose it. He refused to use it. So then it came back to bite him, because he didn't want to use the screwdriver. And then at this point, Swerve is taking full advantage of him. Swerve stomp. He gives him another last call. And Osprey kicks out. He keeps kicking out. Crowd is on its feet. Osprey is wobbling towards Swerve to try to hit a hidden blade. Swerve catches him in a hugging position. He hugs Osprey, puts him up, gives him the big pressure, which is the Phantom Driver. He calls it big pressure. And Swerve retains the AEW World Championship. After the match, Swerve gives Osprey words of wisdom as Osprey is in tears that he had just lost in the main event to try to capture the AEW World Championship. And Kyle Fletcher is there to console Will Osprey after his loss in the main event. So Swerve, this type of match solidified him as the top guy in AEW. This right here, this solidified him as the captain in AEW. He is the face of AEW, and he has justified a great reign so far as the AEW World Champion. You know, he beat Samoa Joe to win the title. He's wrestled Christian Cage, Roderick Strong, and now you can add Will Osprey onto that list. And Swerve is proving the doubters wrong. And you absolutely love to see it. From where he was in WWE to where he is now in AEW, main eventing a pay-per-view with the best wrestler in the world. I'm proud of Swerve. I'm happy to be a fan of Swerve, and I'm excited to see what's next for Swerve, which we all know what's next. Come on. We've known this for a month now. Ever since AEW announced the Owen Hart Cup, this is Hangman's tournament to win. Your main event match at All In is Hangman Adam Page against Swerve Strickland. And there's 4 guys right now, 4 guys that AEW needs to build this company around. And it's Swerve, Will Osprey, MJF, and Hangman Adam Page. If I had other names to throw in there, I would probably throw in Okada. I would probably throw in Takeshita, Bryan Danielson, and a toss-up between Jack Perry and Daniel Garcia. And the good thing about it is, the 4 top guys I just talked about, it's probably going to be your 2 top matches at All In. MJF versus Osprey, and Hangman Page versus Swerve. I'm excited for the summer of AEW. I'm excited to see what AEW cooks up for the rest of the summer going into All In. We've got some big shows from AEW in the next coming weeks. You know, we got Beach Break with a stacked card. Daniel Garcia and Osprey for the International Championship. Pac versus Danielson. Chris Statlander versus Willow Nightingale. And Jeff Jarrett versus the wild card in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Expected to be Hangman Page. The following week is the finals of the Owen Hart Cup. And we got Blood and Guts. And then we got the build to All In. So, if you were to ask me, I'm hyped. I'm hyped up for the summer of AEW going into All In. And I think tonight was a good start. Like I said, after the first 6 matches, the show felt super flat. The show was flat. Then we got to that ladder match, and things changed. It turned out to be a really good show. So, oh man, I'm getting out of here. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Big Fight Fuel channel here on YouTube. Hit the like button if you like what you heard from me. Comment down below your thoughts on the pay-per-view tonight. And follow me on Twitter at Colin_Joseph. And I will see you guys in the next video. Honestly, it could be as soon as later today. With the 76ers, they signed 2 players already in free agency. Andre Drummond and Eric Gordon are officially Philadelphia 76ers. We might be talking about it tomorrow or Tuesday. One of those 2 days, we'll be talking Sixers basketball here on the Big Fight Fuel channel. I'm out. Have a good night. As always, stay safe and love wrestling. I'm tired. I need sleep. Peace.